And that's the bit I've tried to attract all my life in work, is actually find the people with a passion. If you find the people with a passion, if you find them with the drive, that absolutely want to help people, then the skill sets you can develop as you go through.
In recent months, we've been working closely with HSS Training. Everyone here at Soup has found this to be a real immersive and informative experience. Working closely with them, we now feel we understand their position as leaders and innovators in the health and safety training market. So we looked on with great interest as we saw them appoint a new operations director, a key and influential role within any company's management team. We saw this as a long-winded and protracted process to go through, and it was no surprise that they were inundated with high-quality candidates for the position. I was intrigued to get in a room with the successful candidate, and within this conversation, I looked to get under the skin of the new operation director to see how he feels he will influence this business. We are thrilled to welcome Darren Verschuren to the table.
Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you here today. So I want to just start off by saying, as a partner of HSS, it's really often a pleasure of mine just to get to know so many different types of businesses, kind of all different sectors. But what it always comes back down to is people behind the business, and witnessing and understanding basically the passion they have to help drive the business forward and build agile and robust services. So from my point of view today, I just want to obviously, pleasure to have you here and welcome you properly. But just to get to know you, where you're from, and what you're going to do here at HSS. I say here, as a partner, that conversation I'm sure will go that way. So before we get into the now and the challenges you face, let's just roll back the years and just talk about who you are and where you come from. That's okay.
Well, it's of course. I mean, it's work-wise. I mean, if you go, where am I? I'm a proud Londoner. So I grew up in London. I'm a proud Dutchman. So half my family are Dutch. My dad was Dutch,
right?
Where I get the dodgy Dutch surname from, so that no one can pronounce. Which they're the two kind of driving forces, I suppose, that goes. Grew up in London, loved it. Loved cities. Grew to love the countryside as you get a bit older and kids and stuff.
Yep.
But a definite city boy, without a doubt.
Yep.
I love cities, always have. And work-wise, it would be fair to say, if you went back as a 17-year-old to sitting in this lovely studio, the 17-year-old would have thought you're nuts. There. So I left school at 16, joined the college course because I didn't really want to go to work just yet.
Yep.
And then completely by chance, a friend of mine worked in the high-level maintenance and cleaning company. And he said, look, do you want to do some work? Yeah, I'll do a bit of graft. There's no problems.
Yeah, great.
And so we used to do the skyscrapers in London.
Okay.
So either on ropes and cradles. And then one day the guy came in with this thing called a cherry picker. I was about 18.
Yep.
And this big monstrous metal thing turned up. And he was like, it's yours.
Eyes.
Yeah. As a kid with toys, as an 18-year-old. And it was about a 90-foot, 20-ton beast and off we went. And completely fell in love with equipment. I absolutely adore it. And it's been a passion of mine since that time. I can still remember the first day.
Right. Okay.
And I can still remember the wind in my hair as I had it. Right. I wasn't always bald. And from that day, I've just had a passion for equipment.
Right.
I love the kit. I love plant. I love the machinery. It's not very fashionable these days. But I spent probably about a year there.
Okay.
And then went to work for the company that used to supply us. And then spent maybe it's about 3-4 years there actually operating the equipment for the company. So we'd go all over the country, all over Europe at the time, operating specialist bits of kit for clients. And then probably took a strange turn because at 23, 24, I went into the training side.
Right. Okay.
And the normal career path for a trainer would be, they would be kind of time served. I'd done 6 years using them, but you would probably in your 40s, 50s, 60s think about kind of training.
Yeah.
But I was pretty young. I was 23, 24. And it kind of pulled in both passions of mine. Football is a huge passion of mine, and coaching is a big passion of mine. Love it, right? Anything with kids football, I've been involved most of my life.
Yep.
And actually I found it combined the both.
Perfect.
Coaching, but with big boys' toys.
Yeah.
It's just tremendous.
Okay.
And I got paid for it. It was even better. Who would have thought? And I've spent most of the last 22, 23 years training. I still class myself as a trainer. I've got a fancy title now.
Yep.
And a nicer car and, maybe a better laptop, but I'm a trainer. And that's what I do. I love the people. I love everything about the industry.
Yep.
And if I never did another training course again, I'd be completely gutted.
Yeah, nice.
I know now it's less training. They maybe need me in different areas, but at heart, I'm a trainer. I love everything about it. It's the people, the process, the machinery, everything. It's just the best job out there.
I imagine that sort of pure passion for the training. Doesn't matter where you go with the
I love it.
career. That's the value that you bring.
And that's the bit I've tried to attract all my life in work is actually find the people with a passion. If you find the people with a passion, if you find them with the drive, that absolutely want to help people, then the skill sets you can develop as you go through.
Yeah.
The most experienced, time served guy sometimes doesn't get it across in the same way as someone that has that kind of passion for people and learning and development and all these things.
Yeah, I guess there's a big difference between like teaching and having experience, it's like absolutely,
totally.
And the fact that you are in profession, but also in pleasure time, teaching the kids football.
Yeah, I love it.
Bringing that through is valuable.
It's a training, especially the type of courses we deliver. They're all short courses, right? So we don't have things that run for 3, 4, 5 weeks. You actually have one job to do each day.
Yep.
So you start your job, you see your job through, and you end that job on the day.
Yep.
So by the time you've finished, there isn't anything else. You've got paperwork and the process and you've got to get home and all this stuff. But actually, you're finished.
Yep.
Which is, in terms of stress.
How can you
get stressed when you got one job?
Yeah.
It's obviously you have outside stuff, but I've always just to this day I can't believe people pay me for it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, genuinely,
just whisper that one.
Yeah. Don't. Can we edit that bit? But at the core of it, I couldn't do a job I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm too old for, I think the older you get, you follow your passions, and if it's just for money, we'll just go clamping cars.
Yeah. I can probably see the attraction of having you start the day with a task to do, and that task isn't going to span months, weeks, years, whatever. It's like by the end of the day, you've got the satisfaction, done a good job, and you see that huge progression within that individual.
You see the end of the job.
Yeah.
So you actually see the beginning and the middle and the end of that job, and you see the growth in the people.
Yeah.
There's courses where people come on, they're a compliance-based course, so they're clear. It's almost a process to get a badge at the end of it, and then they're fine. We can have fun and. We can do that.
Yeah.
But you've got people that, it means a lot. And they'll come to these courses that we deliver with nerves, for previous. It sends them back to school, right?
So
they're like, oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm the guy in the back of the room.
Yeah. Because I've seen I've been on a few of the training courses, obviously being the sort of creative partner for you guys. And it is a huge mix of individuals and talents and, experience and awareness of what they're doing.
You can have a project manager and a labourer. And you've got to be able to deliver that course for both people.
Yeah.
Not to lose the project manager and to keep up with everyone on the course, but to see it to the end, to see someone achieve something where the courses that are the hardest are the most rewarding.
Right. And I guess we'll come on to ideas behind the training a bit later on. But before we move on, you've come from running your own business.
Yeah.
So do you want to just talk about that a little bit for us?
Yeah. So, I spent probably the first 10 years of my career working for most of the big players. So kind of jotting around the different companies in the industry. And then around about, it must have been 12 years ago, 13 years ago now, I set up my first business. And the idea is actually the frustration that caused us to start the business is actually a big part of being at HSS that I'm sure we'll come on to. But when you work within a traditional plant hire business, the training's just an afterthought. So you're a very small piece of a very big pie. If you've got £10 million worth of metal sitting in the yard, that's your focus. You can't have that sitting still.
Yeah.
So the idea was to create something that's standalone. That's that's our day job. We have to do it brilliantly.
Yeah.
So that was the first business. I sold that, and then went to work for a Dutch company for a few years. Then went to work in virtual reality, strangely enough.
Right, okay.
So we used to create virtual reality models and then set up another business, which was an outsourced business. So maybe looking and saying we didn't want the headaches of, a big infrastructure behind us. So it was outsourced to companies like HSS that we used to provide venues and locations and trainers to kind of support their business. And I love both sides. It's the core element's still the same, right? So you're still a trainer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're still in the training business.
Right.
It's still that in there. But yeah, it was predominantly. I like growing things. I like kind of having. It's not an autonomy because you never do. You've still got bills to pay and mortgages to pay, but it's being controlled from outside with that don't have an understanding of your business. And that's always the frustration.
Probably there's a couple of things I want to sort of pull on there. Really, is that one of the understanding of running a business and how you're going to bring that into the role. Well, you mentioned a few times of like more of an international kind of experience, working in different markets, different sectors around the world. Absolutely. So, how's that influenced, or how have you drawn down on that experience?
Well, I think travel in itself is an experience, right? So you get to see different people and different ways of doing things, and I think everyone's, you all get caught in that day-to-day stuff where this is why we do it because this is how we've always done it. So I've been lucky enough in the last 5 years to work for a European company where part of my region was Denmark, Poland, Kazakhstan, lots of different places, interacting with those guys. And then with the virtual reality stuff was all over the world. My region was anywhere apart from Canada.
Right, okay.
So you'd be in the Middle East, and then you'd be in the Far East, and then you'd be all over. But it's the same issues. Okay. Right? The same issues are based on competence of people around equipment. Doesn't matter where they're from. But actually the cultural side, if you go to America, the issues they have is in scale. People can't. The travel is 5-6 hours.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
To you can't have a location. So the way they deal with it is things like e-learning for part of the course, so allow for travel. And then you go to different countries where you have skill sets are different and languages are different, and all of it's really interesting, and all of it has a relevance to bring in. Yeah,
massively. Obviously, language is one, and just learning skills and different ways of approaching to teach someone from different cultures. It must be quite high up on the agenda for you.
And it's understanding how people learn. It's language is only one form of learning, and it's trying to kind of look at it from different ways, and definitely the cultural thing. That it's you kind of I think as you get older through work, you kind of get a little bit scarred sometimes with you won't try something because you might have tried something similar in the past. So you'll close that door and you'll say, well, I did that 3 years ago, it didn't work. But actually, think, well, it does work in Denmark.
Yeah.
It's working perfectly in Holland. It's what's causing the issue that it won't work here.
Yeah, great.
And that side of things is, to me, it's always about being open.
Yeah. Probably a question just for for me really is, do you always go back to a certain place? Well, they get it right. Where is...
No, the fact, over here we're the most mature market.
Okay.
So we have a very mature market because of the machinery came generally from America and then came over here, and we've probably got the most mature market. But so I'd say you would struggle with a huge standalone business in certain markets because it can be very factional. But every place will have solutions that work and then solutions that don't.
Yeah. I guess for their own unique problems as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. So I think obviously you've had a very exciting sort of
strange,
passionate sort of career development to this point then. So should we move on to, why the move? Why HSS?
Well, it's not one I expected to be. It's but it was. I think if you go back to the point before about, I'm a training guy, right? I've worked in hire. I'd say I understand hire to a point, but I don't have that massive passion for it. I have passion for training. That's the market. So if you look at the market in the UK, most of the bigger companies where you could kind of see yourself fitting into a role, they're all generally rental companies with a training business attached. HSS isn't that. They're pretty much unique, where they're allowed to stand alone because of their history, because of their previous record of getting it right. they're the clear market leader in everything. It's crazy when you see behind the curtain and you go, oh, my Lord, does he do that much? It's just nuts.
Yeah.
And what that's allowed them to do for the work that everyone in the team has done in the last 10, 15 years is that they have the trust of the business to be able to take things quickly. They're not going through 10 different departments and CFOs and CapEx requirements and all the stuff you deal with. They can say, I see an opportunity here. Let's go for it. And it was simply too good to turn down.
Yeah, that sounds like a dream.
You can't. In life, I generally regret the things I don't do. The things that you give a damn good go at. But as soon as the opportunity became available, I remember sitting with my wife and you know, we're staunch. We're self-employed. She goes, you can't turn it down, can you? No. We decided we set aside some time and it was done in about 3 seconds.
Well,
you can't. It's not something you can turn down. If you're genuinely a training guy, and this opportunity comes up, you don't say no.
And I think you alluded to there saying that kind of, you know, they're dynamic by the sounds of it, but they're also as a market leader, it still feels like there's a lot of room for growth.
Mate, these are at the start. I would not join if I thought that they were on the crest of they've reached their potential. You know, when we start looking at skill sets and how the market is and labour shortages, that they're at the start of the journey. Well, the way I see it is probably simplistic, but they've done all the groundwork to get an amazing infrastructure in place. Now is the next stage in their development. And I'm not going to pretend for a second that that's me, right? I'm a small cog in a big wheel. But that's the way I see it. They are clearly at the start of something.
So what do you think, you know, you said, obviously, say it's not me, I'm the big, but I think you are going to be obviously a big influence and help driving the business in different directions. So what are the plans going forward? What are your first ideas? What do you want to land with? What's the, you know, out there, a message, I guess, to the team internally, but also externally? I mean,
the first thing is the team, right? So that everyone that's involved in this business has grown it, right? That's the zero to do with me. That's their hard work, their blood, sweat and tears to create this company that's, as far as I'm concerned, is unique. I'm an absolute people first person, right? My job is not to lord it up around in fancy hotels, is to support those guys, right? My job is to make their life as easy as I can and better and listen to them. And it's all about the people. If you don't have the people, we don't have anything. Everyone from our whole cycle, from, you know, the initial call to the planning to everything, it's supporting them. It's a support role. It's not about me. It's not about my career. And, you know, I wouldn't say I'm ambitious. I'm curious more than ambitious.
Yeah. But the curious mind is a very valuable tool.
I like challenges and I like seeing things, but 100%, the first focus is the people, right? That they need all of our help and support. And, you know, that we've got so many out in the field, and I know what the job's like. It's the strain, the trainers, for example, right? What a lot of people don't understand is it's the most social job, but the most lonely job.
Okay.
So you're interacting with people for 7, 8, 9 hours a day, right? And you don't get a break. Lunch break doesn't exist because people want to talk to you. People want to interact with you. So for that 8 hours, you know, you're consistently like being talked at. It can be quite draining at times.
Yeah.
But you might not see anyone from your company in a month. I'd go through 3 months without actually seeing anyone. You see the depot, you see the people on the course.
Yeah.
So it's trying to support them and understand that, you know, that we can, you know, that there are things we can do. And it's not just the trainers, it's the whole process. But people first, 100%. That's my job.
Do you think that's the experience of running a business coming through that, you know, kind of some of the realities of bringing things to market?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I think I always look at it, look, business is business. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. We have the same principles. Is that I always, to this, even with HSS, I look, would I spend the money?
Yeah.
That's my only question, right? If it was my money, would I spend it? And if the answer is yes, then it's got sound business practices behind it. As soon as you get lost in that corporate nonsense of, like, you know, there are multi-million, billion, those companies fail, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's lots that fail. So running your own business is very important. To that, it gives you an understanding of the wastage. and we work really hard for any revenue at the end of the week.
Yeah.
And if we're just bleeding that out the door through many different ways, the amount of extra work you have to do so without a doubt, it definitely makes you appreciate the full picture.
Yeah. And I guess that one, a quick question around, HSS were looking to sort of go in this direction. So when I'm sort of applying for the role and kind of going through that, do you think that's kind of what stood you out?
You'd probably have to ask them that. Yeah. Yeah, possibly. I suppose as an ops director, the role is operation.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily I'm sure sales and commercial don't want me stamping all over their places, but coming from a background of running my own business, you're the marketing, sales, ops, cleaner, builder. It's the drains get blocked, so then you're also the sewage technician as well.
I know it very well.
You're the one with the big rubber gloves. So I think that might have been the attraction. I mean, I couldn't answer 100%, but I think we can have a really fluid relationship with everybody because we want the same thing. We want the best service delivered for the best price we can. Profit isn't a dirty word. Right, profit pays for development. It pays for progress. We are here to create a profit. Otherwise, we won't be here.
Yeah, a sustainable profit.
Sustainable, and we're not trying to we're not trying to fleece people. It's a long-term relationship. But yeah, I see that maybe as an advantage. Something I could bring to the table.
So obviously, coming from running your own business. Similarities, obviously, running a business. I always joke the fact that I think I'm unemployable. I just couldn't imagine it. So, what was that like? Them, seeing the opportunity and then going back through what is a formal process you may not have done for decades.
To be honest, I was the first time I got through to an interview. I think it's probably the only formal one I've ever had.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I spent like the best part of 15 years self-employed. Somebody bought the business that I was working for, so I automatically got a job, and it was kind of contracted that I had to stay an amount of time.
Yep.
And most of the jobs previous to that is, do you want to come and work with us? And you go, I'll do that. So to sit in formal interviews and, getting questions and going through, first stage, second stage, and everything that comes with it was quite daunting.
Yeah, I guess against, some very esteemed kind of colleagues in the marketplace.
You don't. Obviously, you don't necessarily know who you're up against, but the job is high profile enough that it's to be brutally honest, the job is probably one of one in the UK. So anyone that's in the training and commercial training and development industry, I'd imagine. And it was on, I think, LinkedIn or wherever the job was, and the applicants were like hundreds. So it certainly it was certainly challenging. Must have done all right.
Yeah, you were clearly successful.
Yeah.
There comes a point where, you're successful, but there's a decision, your family man, what was that like?
Yeah, it's family comes first to me, right? So my job and my wife's job is to provide the best environment for the kids. So it's always part of everything we do. So we always sit down together and work things out. It didn't last long, if I'm honest, because my wife obviously understands me very well now, and I have to be passionate about what I'm doing. If it's a chore, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not that type of person. And so we sat down, we cleared some time in the very busy schedule with 3 kids and everything else going on. But the conversation lasted about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. She was like, "You're going to take it?" And yeah. She goes, "I agree, we should." That was that. It's very rare we totally agree on everything.
Yeah, and here we are. Yeah, fantastic. Well, because we work with quite a few clients around education. So education is a big sector for us, like working from universities to online coaching to you guys. What always gets me excited is what's the future of, obviously, you got big plant, big locations, but what's the mix of technology and like the logistics, I guess, for you?
In terms of like digitalization technology, I mean, our process, and this isn't HSS, right, as an industry, is quite crazy, right? So take any training center in the country, right, at the moment. So Dave Jones wants a training course, right? So he'll phone up whoever it is, right? He goes through to somebody on the other end. They say, "I want this training course in this location." No problems. They'll take the details. They might take payment, might be on account, whatever it is. Yeah. But they'll fill out the details for that person and they'll send him the details. From that point, Dave Jones turns up at the training center And, Mick Jones, the instructor, gets him to put on a piece of paper every single detail that he's just put already in there.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So we fill out paperwork, and the paperwork gets processed because there's a legal element to it, a competence-based stuff.
Yeah.
And then that paperwork goes by Royal Mail back to the first person that originally took the first phone call.
Okay. Yeah.
And then that person is normally entering that onto an accredited specific system. So they all have their own kind of portals. And then they're trying to read the phone number and his date of birth and his email that's like 27 miles long. And you get mistakes. And it's a very, very, it's crazy. I mean, the amount of times we handle data as an industry is nuts.
Right, okay, yep.
So from that perspective, we are 100% at the forefront. We have to be. We can streamline, make things simple, digitalization, everything we have to be front and center because it's a way of making the process easier for the client. I'm only a fan of technology if it adds value. If you say we are the best at technology, we'll give everyone a massive laptop. Oh, okay. Does it add value?
Yeah, of course.
But my way of thinking is I always go back to a friend of mine once said that Frank Williams, right? He used to, for his racing team, anyone could knock on his door, from the cleaner to the MD of the company. When they open the door, he'd ask him one question. Whatever we're going to talk about, does it make the car go faster? Right? And if the answer is yes, he'll sit and listen to you. And I look at it the same way with technology. Sometimes you get kind of blindsided by the gadgetry.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I've got this thing. Look at it. It's amazing. But does it does it improve people? Does it improve the process? Does it improve customer experience? And things like e-learning are 100% part of the business and how we develop them. But it has to add value for the business and the client. Yeah. Just replacing an instructor-led course with an e-learning course, and it doesn't necessarily add value to everyone. It has to be of the right quality, of the right site. And we've got to have all those controls in. I'm a huge believer in sort of data technology and going through that, but it has to make the car go faster. Yeah. Okay. And that's probably, I learned that through, launching a tech product that necessarily in certain actions didn't.
Right? So you can get very blinky with these sort of things. Of course.
The coolness of it, right? Look at that, it's amazing. Look what it does. But actually, you've got to look at the core values of the business. We need to, as an industry, change the way we handle data and people and process and all this stuff, without a doubt. And that's something that will be on the forefront. But in all that, we can't get blindsided by it's really cool.
It just feels like if you've got someone booked onto a course, you've got a point from A to B where you've got opportunities for more touch points to make it when they get onto site, they've had added value. Yeah. They're a step ahead. So that experience on site is
amazing. I mean, can we do pre-learning with them? Yeah. Can we interact with them before the course so that they're coming to the course with some understanding already? Yeah. Can we do post-learning with them? So we don't just kind of train them and send them off in the world. There's, how do we interact with that client and that person? Not just for commercial gain. There's a safety element to it. The touch points you can have, and all of that stuff adds massive value. Yeah. And that's what we have to focus on, is making sure that the value. I'm sure you've been to restaurants and stuff, right, where it's an app, or and all you do is you lose the interaction from the people, and you're pressing buttons, and like 38 Cokes turn up when all you wanted was a cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
So it's not an automatic that digitalizing creates benefits. We have to be really careful that, just understanding that it has to create value.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So there's big ambitions, you come on board. So what I don't know, I'm not a pessimist, but I really appreciate passion and experience. But you've said it a few times already, just mindful of reality.
Yeah.
We need to be considered, structured of how we get to where we want to be. So what are sort of steps you want to put in place, or the challenges ahead that you think you need to?
Well, I think probably one of the biggest challenges within virtually every industry is also our biggest opportunity. So the skill shortage in the UK as a whole, there isn't an industry that's suffering. And you could talk to any part of any industry. Yeah. So if you go from the awful COVID times where people necessarily didn't return to work afterwards, that they found the garden quite good. I'm sure there was quite a few that didn't fancy going back into graft after that.
Yep.
And so you lost some very experienced people that might have been kind of transferring those skills. And then with Brexit, without getting into kind of any political stuff, it's now that we're rather than bringing in skills from Europe or from wherever, we're now looking at our own people. Now that's led as a bit of a shock to the system, where the hardest thing for most contractors is to find the skill set.
Yeah.
Now, as HSS Training, that's a huge opportunity, right? We can open the doors to any type of training, But then we have the same problem. So if there's a lack of skill set in electrical, F-gas, confined, all this stuff, then we have the same issue. So one of the first things that we have to do is create an academy system. That we're nurturing the right people, we're finding the right people, whether it's ex-military or from every industry, and we're finding the right people, and we're giving them a pathway into the HSS business, and having that pathway through is a really important thing. Look, it's one thing to just take someone on board, throw an instructor course at them, give them a laptop, and send them out on the roads. That's okay. Will that person be here in 3 years' time? That was my experience.
Yeah.
But if you can structure things that, over the next 5 years, that this is your route through. And if you've got the right person at the start, that guy that's got that, that passion for learning, passion for kind of being around people, and because it's a slightly salesy job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're selling something, whether it's an idea. And if you've got that person to give them a career path through, and those people coming into the business are just gold dust. To support the work that everyone's doing, new ideas. Why don't you do it like this? Why don't you do it like that?
Yeah, of course.
It's perfect. But the academy will definitely be high up on the agenda, and that's definitely high up.
Right, great. So what's from my perspective then? What's the relationship between yourselves and the awarding bodies?
Well, I mean, from previous lives, I've sat alongside HSS colleagues, so we're very, very close. We have to be, because we've got the same aims.
Yeah.
At the core of training, and look, I've said before, profit's not a dirty word, but you don't get into this business just purely for money. You have to want to help people. And if we take those as a core value of, we train people because we want them to develop, to get skills, to be better, to be safer, to be quicker, all these things are benefits of training. If we want that, then we're directly in line with the accrediting bodies. And we'll work very closely with them all. We'll offer every bit of support we can.
Yeah.
Because their function is our aim as well.
Yeah.
And we need to be at the table, to be frank.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
We have to be at the table. We have to be applying our principles of what we're trying to achieve. And it's actually an interesting part of the job. I've been involved for years.
Yeah.
But you can start to directly affect industry and change, which is all the stuff we want to do.
Yeah. So would the aspirations, or you're already involved in maybe policy creation, that sort of level? Yeah.
I mean, HSS has been at the forefront for years. Yeah. That's not something that I'm going to change. That's something I'm going to continue.
Yeah.
So there's many of our trainers and that are constantly involved in the committees that decide these things.
Yeah.
There's some great work, and most of these trainers do it in their own time.
Yeah.
But nothing more than for the love of the industry.
Yeah.
So they'll give up days off, they'll give up travel, and they'll do all of the work outside of their work hours just because that they want the best for the industry.
For me as a marketeer, I guess you'd say, is that I don't think there's a much stronger message that when you're talking about building trust with partners, like if you're in an organisation that working at that level with that passion to make sure that the industry is doing what it's supposed to be, I'm not sure there's much else you can do to build trust. What's more important than that?
No, well, I hope so, because it is true. It sounds really cliched, and it's, but I don't think you stay in this business if you're I love numbers. I love P&L sheets because it really interests me how, you change this widget and then all of a sudden something changes down there. That's the kind of curious nature I have. But if it's just numbers, then there's easier ways to make a buck.
Good. Obviously, this conversation has been, for me, fascinating. And I'm sure for your colleagues within the team and people out there, that sort of partners and future clients, I've learned a lot about yourself and kind of maybe a bit more about the HSS training itself. What would be your sort of leaving message or takeaway from this conversation?
Well, for our people, for our colleagues, it's, they're clearly the market leader. They've done loads of things right and they continue to do loads of things right, but that doesn't mean everything's perfect. So we have to listen to our people. We have to listen to our colleagues because nobody knows better than them. And it's trying to support them better, whether that's the infrastructure that they're working in. Our training centres are very heavily utilised and it doesn't take a long time at all for them to start to look tired. So investing in them, investing in the places people work, the travel that the trainers do. I know what it's like getting up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. So listening to that and trying to make sure we're the best organised and we look after our people. We're a people business. Our product is our people and how we deliver that. And we have to make sure that when people turn up, they're turning up in the best centre. They've got the best facilities. They've had the best information and they get the best instructor. And if you can do all of those things, then the growth will just continue on the same form.
So it sounds like you've not sat around. You've instantly got in there and having conversations and listened to people already.
Trainers don't hold back, right? So it's didn't take, but I understand it. The frustrations of if you're traveling what you perceive is too far or the centre isn't exactly how you want it. It's a passion. They're trying to give. They're not doing it from a selfish perspective. The perspective is it's not good for our clients. And I'll always listen to that because it's trying to make things better. And if you can get a little bit better every day, then you're moving forward. And my phone's always on for that sort of conversation. And hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll get round to meet a lot more of the team, trainers and all the wonderful work that gets done in head offices and at homes. And I'll listen every time because who knows better? I don't know. I'm not going to pursue. I can't. It's not about just my opinion. It's about listening and seeing where you can make a difference.
It's just time and time again. I'm fascinated by the role you've got is obviously multifaceted from the very top of helping policy, ops, big business, but always at the bottom, foundations. It's always the team, isn't it?
Process is great. You need it. I don't, we can't just kind of just run with it and see how we get on. But process doesn't work without people. You can have the most amazing systems in the world, the best IT, but if the people don't believe in the products, then it's all a waste of time. So you've got to use the processes and everything we do in policy to support the people. And I'm sure everyone's worked in businesses where you feel like you're a number. The bigger they are, the harder it is to have that touch. But it's still massively important, especially to me, is that my job's to help them. Yeah, we have to have all the P&Ls and the infrastructure and the systems, and you can't run a big business without it. But ultimately, everyone that's doing the job, whichever job that is in HSS, and they're all valuable, we have to be as myself and a management team. That's our role, is to support them.
Well, thank you for such a strong closing kind of statement there. That's fantastic. I've really enjoyed this conversation. As I said, I just love talking to people from all walks of life, different stages, different sectors and all the rest of it. And this was no different. So I'm sure there's a very strong message for everyone to take away there. And thank you very much.
No problems. Thank you. I enjoyed it.